Welcome to the Restoration Activation Project video commentary series. Hi, Mary Ann here. I'm glad you could be with me. Well, in this commentary, I've finally gotten around to doing a commentary that I've wanted to do for a while. I've talked about it several times in several other commentaries that I've done because the topic comes up because of the times we're living in. But I'm going to be getting into basically the technological transhumanist ripoff that's being shoved down our throats right now, and why, and how this relates to, and it does directly relate to the prior video on some of my discussion of special abilities, so-called special abilities, that so many of us on the ascension self-mastery journey are experiencing ourselves and witnessing in others, particularly during these times. During this time of transition from our current evolution cycle, consciousness evolution cycle, from its currently regressive dominant state into its next state, unfolding into the next. And this process is already going on. And we can see that it's going on by the chaos in our reality. The chaos that stems from the chaos that's coming up within ourselves, because remember, as within, so without, as without, so within. And this chaos, zooming out from the higher order perspective, is also going on in other realms and densities. As above, so below. As below, so above. So all of this is going on during this nearing of the point of convergence in our cycles, from which there will be at least one timeline split, perhaps multiple. But that's a topic for another commentary. These are really big topics, folks, and I hope you'll be understanding and patient with my approach to them, because there's just so much material to cover, and I just do what I can. But anyway, let's get into this. So the evolution cycle, this convergence point is upon us. We are nearing it. And time is important. It's really important that those of you who are on this journey ratchet up your game. This is one of the reasons I'm out here. I know I tend to say things more than once, but it's because this is a time of urgency. And I know that I'm not speaking in terms of a lot of the disinformation that came about around the 2012 business. This is real. This shift and this transition is occurring. We do not know exactly when the actual convergence point will be reached. Some have impressions of that, but I personally don't know, but I know that it's nearing. And I feel through impressions that intensity. Nothing external. This is from within. So look to that in yourselves too, and see where you are in terms of sensing this, the sense of urgency around the work that we do on ourselves. So really look deeply into that to see what your inner knowing is. And this is not a time for laziness or putting off or excuses. It's time for those of us who are serious seekers, seeking to restore and activate, to ascend, to move through this transition and come out on the ascended side rather than the continued downward spiral side of things. So again, this is a personal choice that you make. And perhaps this isn't the time for you, but I would put forth to you to consider. In light, look at what's going on around us. How the regressive forces have really ratcheted up their game. They know what's coming, and they're taking every opportunity, putting forth concerted effort Hence the extreme levels of chaos that are, and the intensity and all these regressive events unfolding around us. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that something's going on, and trust me, they know about it. They know what it is. They're looking at it from higher order perspectives, and from the which is the perspectives of, you know, the way this reality really works, not what's been spoon-fed, what's been fed mainstream, what we've been indoctrinated to, but what's really going on, and they respond to it and use it to their advantage. I've told you that the use of these principles, the understandings of how our reality works, and evolution cycles, and all of these things have been used to the regressive forces' advantage. This is why they want us to be ignorant. This is why they teach us to laugh at those who talk about these kind of things. It's to their advantage to keep humanity in a continually downward spiral of regressive evolution. To start connecting the dots, people. To say, well, you know, I'll get around to this when things aren't so crazy in my life. Things are crazy in your life because you haven't gotten around to this work. You see? If your life is crazy right now, that's your big red flag that it is time to step up your game on this journey. And again, my commentaries, by and large, are for those who are on this journey and who are serious seekers. And again, it's always your choice. But what is in your reality? What are you seeing? Even if it's not in your personal reality bubble, what are you aware of that's going on around us that bothers you, that disturbs you? Look into that. Start there. And I mean, really deep dive if you haven't already. And look at the intensity of what's going on, whether it's, you know, something like animal abuse or human trafficking, pedophilia. Hugely on the rise. So much so that it's being pushed on us as something that is normal and healthy, as opposed to an extreme pathology, something that is not normal at all. Perhaps normal to what's going on around us, but so really take a deep, long look at where you are in this and what you're doing, and be brutally honest with yourself. We all have to do that. And sometimes it's not fun or pleasant, and it's not easy. This process isn't easy. We weren't sent here. We didn't get picked to come here because this was something easy. We are underneath. You might not feel comfortable with this yet, but you need to start getting comfortable with it. The fact that underneath the veneer of what may be going on in your life and what's going on around us, you're here. If you're awakening and you're listening to me, you're here for a reason. You're here, remember, your overarching purpose is to bring progressive consciousness and co-creation to this reality, to counterpoise the regressive dominant consciousness and co-creation that's unfolding through us as the regressive conditions in our reality. It's all around us. So, okay, enough about that. But it ties into what I'm going to be getting into today. And that's about technology, you know, the transhumanist push that's really being rammed down our throats from every, you know, bought and paid for celebrity out there. Spiritual celebrities, people that many followers are going, oh, I can't believe he or she is pushing that. They're talking about light and love, and now they're pushing 5G technology. What? You know, this is in addition to, you know, the Elon Musks and other people out there that have just been working this for a long time. And the reason they're doing that, the ruling class, the ones behind the human hybrids and the possessed humans that work for them on this planet, but the highest level puppeteers, you know, those from other dimensions, the more advanced of the regressive ruling class. These beings are strategists and planners, long term. They've known for a long time that this cycle was going to begin evolving into the next. The various strategies and tactics that they've implemented over the course of time, from the time of man's, you know, humanity's so-called fall, the time that they stepped in and they worked for millennia to really get their hooks into human civilizations and cultures and all of that by way of their dogmas, you know, beginning with religious dogma and culminating then into rule by government, and then educational institutions, and now it's medical and academic, you know, university, all of these key institutions of, you know, the healthcare system. What an oxymoron, healthcare. It's like not. But all of these institutions, their tools have been unfolded and tweaked and adjusted throughout the decades and the millennia to accommodate their overarching agendas. And sometimes the agendas get shifted along the way because certain things happen that perhaps they didn't plan for. But they're better than ever at it now. They're the best they've ever been. With the help of technology. This is how they've been able to, now more than ever before, there are more people ensnared in this pyramidal system of control thanks to technology, in hand with humanity's total, as an aggregate, loss of connection with what they really are, why they're really here, how things really work, understanding of consciousness and vital energy and potential, the different forces, creative forces and capacities and energies that we have access to, and our divine connections, if you speak in those terms. The connection, if you don't like the term divine, but the connection with the unconditioned awareness and consciousness, unexpressed, that pure knowing, unconditioned, aligned with core self, soul, mind-body complex, and being able to flow through us into our co-creations. This is why the regressive class, ruling class, have worked for eons through multiple evolution cycles to continually pull us away from knowledge of what we really are and how things really work. This is what has allowed their upper hand. And humans have come to the place of looking outward for answers, relying on somebody else for information and answers as to what's really going on. And this is where technology now, humanity has so regressed. This has all been timed perfectly. the advent of the technologies that have been introduced. And if you'll notice how things have really ramped up in the last couple of decades, the last decade in particular. I mean, you can look at it even from the little things that they leak to us, you know, smartphones and so forth. And just, you know, I've seen videos and photographs of people in the poorest of conditions, third world countries, with rags for clothes, holding up an iPhone, hi, given to them. Why would that be? Think about it. I'm not even going to get into that. But just really shoving it down our throats, because the time is, you know, humans are ripe. The aggregate of human consciousness is now ripe for this. And we're getting down to the wire in terms of this transition, cycle transition. And so it's really being ramped up now. And what I want to get into today is the jip. Humans are so detached and so ignorant of what they really are and what's really going on and how things really work on multiple levels, beginning with divinity, the spiritual level, coming downward from there, interdimensional level, and even on the 3D level. There's so much ignorance by design. And every technology, all of these so-called advancements, not only are many of them detrimental to the well-being and health of the mind-body complex, but in particular the mind, you know, and the social engineering that always goes in hand with the introduction of these technologies. There's always the cover story. You know, this is why we're doing this. This stuff is great, yada yada. It's going to make your life better, easier, more convenient. You know, humans have been indoctrinated to believe that advancement of civilization means our lives are easier. Things are more convenient for us. They've been entrained to equate the two. Technological advancement, convenience is a societal advancement. You know, technologies that make our lives easier and make things more convenient for us equates to the advancement of civilization. Well, that's not what it used to mean. The advancement of civilization used to mean that one could look back over the course of time in terms of the conditions of a society and say, okay, we've made improvements. More people are able to eat now. More people have food at the table. More people are able to lead productive lives. More people are healthy. And I'm talking about man in this form, because even that isn't true advancement. I mean, those are things that should be inherent within any society. Who was it, Gandhi, that said you can gauge the level of advancement of a society or civilization by the way they treat their animals? And others have said similar things, you know, the way they treat their weakest members, for example, the elderly and children. Take a look around. How are most elderly people treated these days? How are the poorest people on the streets treated? How are so many children, starving children, hundreds of thousands are dying of poverty, starvation-related illnesses and diseases, if not starvation itself, around the world? Well, we've really come a long way, haven't we, with all of our technology? But we have the technology, the capacity to feed and clothe virtually everyone on this planet. And we have the space, too, for you, any of you that believe in the overpopulation myth. We've been totally, as a whole, you know, with visuals, you know, constantly showing the busy, hectic cities that most people, our whole rural society basically was forced to go into cities because rural communities were going under. The farmer, all this happening in the 80s, corporate takeover. And, you know, the farming community wasn't just about farming. You know, you had the feed store guys, and you had the equipment repair guys, and you had, you know, the local general store for the families. I mean, but this is all, you know, just swept away on purpose to push people into cities. And then we see all these visuals, you know, online, TV, print, about the overcrowding. We don't have room. We can't take care of. We can't feed all these people. There's too many people in the world. Well, this overpopulation thing is all based in the false notion that this planet can only accommodate so many people. Well, that's based on a closed environment. An environment wherein there aren't means and methods of replenishing the environment so that the environment can help replenish us. All of these methods are known. And there's so much open space, inhabitable, arable space on this planet, livable space that is not being used. Humans are not allowed to use to perpetrate this illusion of overpopulation. That was a little bit of a digression, but it's all related. Because it goes back to technology and saying that we can't do this and can't do that. It's a lie. They're lies. And people believe them. But every technology that has been introduced into this society, or any man or other being made technology, they're all lame mimics of non-quantum, non-mechanical, non-robotic, or human-made technologies. They're all poor shadows, poor representations of the use of consciousness, vital energy, being in tune with potential. And I'll break that down for you now so you can see for yourself what I'm talking about. And as I said in the last video, I talked about various so-called psychic abilities and all that many are awakening to and have been for some time. And it's just basically all around us now. All of us have certain abilities. Whether or not you're willing to see or acknowledge does not mean that they're not there. You have them in yourself. Some version. Something you have these abilities too. Maybe they're very weak right now. Perhaps they're latent completely within you right now. But all of these movies that we see, you know, the superhero thing, these are all basic mockeries of what we are capable of. We watch these movies and go, wow, this is all science fiction. And it's like, no, they're mocking us. This is how the regressive ruling class works. According to the rules of engagement, the code of conduct for our reality, it is up to them to get our informed consent so that we, quote, know what's really going on, and that we therefore they have permission to do all the things that they do. Well, when you watch these movies without understanding at some level that these are real, although they're distorted, they're not exactly the way things work, but sometimes more of the truths come through. But these are all representations of what humans were and still are capable of when we do the work of self-mastery. We open ourselves. We get back in touch with those capacities. But that's why all the movies. All of the video games for decades have been doing this, while also diminishing the consciousness of those who are addicted to them. You know, the technologies that are able to mess with people that use these, because it's all propaganda. And propaganda is lies mixed with truth. And the regressive ruling class, because of their eons-long study of humanity and the psychological, emotional aspects of us, which they basically help engineer themselves, they know us. They know how to play us. And so we're at the time now, we're nearing this time of transition, and everything's ratcheted up. So this is why they're introducing all these technologies at this time. Humanity is primed to go, ooh, ah, I want my mind connected to a computer. How about you? Because we will be so much better this way. I mean, all of the, the early 1900s, 30s, 1940s and stuff, this is when all this stuff, Brave New World, and then 1948, Orwell, all of these, and so many other books. Oh, I've got a digital library full of them, telling us of all these things. You can even go back to one written, I believe, in 1500s, 1560, that's talking about all this, and that it would come primarily. And of course, this is, these technologies are being introduced from all over the world now, because different alien factions have domain over various countries, and this has shifted over time. So all these technologies now are coming out of different countries. But I believe the book was called The New World. And if I remember, I will put if I can find an online link to it, but I'll certainly post the name of the book and you can read it yourself. And in this book, written in the 1500s, it's talking about all these special medicines and these technologies and all, not in those terms, but that will be available to those who go along with the ruling class, basically. But you have to follow the rules to have access to these. I mean, this has been written about centuries ago, even written about. And I'm sure there's texts earlier than that that speak to these things. Long-term strategic planning. Remember, they're looking at things from the top of a skyscraper, and we're down here on the streets. And they understand how this reality works. They understand how we work. They know what we are capable of, what we were creating and doing before they came along and decided they didn't like it. They were frightened by it. It jeopardized the way they wanted things to be. They wanted control. Does that sound familiar? Control, control, control. Controlled evolution. Controlled advancement. Everything's nailed out, nailed down beforehand. We want it to go this way. Well, that's regressive creation. Progressive creation unfolds as it unfolds. And because it's progressive creation, it's service to other. Progressive creation aligns with the rules of engagement, code of conduct for this reality. It does not impose its creations on others without their informed consent. So what's to fear from that? It's only the regressive input and progressive forces succumbing to regressive influence, that technology and special abilities take on a regressive quality. So this is why it's key that we work from those understandings in everything that we do. Or the regressive aspects of us become the dominant aspects in ourselves. So some of these technologies, let's get into some of the specific technologies now. And I made some notes, and I didn't cover everything by any stretch. There's plenty of examples, but I just wanted to pull up some of the more obvious ones. Internet technology. What does that represent? Why was that suddenly introduced? Again, like I said, because more and more people are awakening, reattuning to, and able to use these higher order capacities that are based in, as I said, alignment with an understanding of consciousness, comprising pure potential and vital, unconditioned vital energy and potential. Zoop, bright white light, unconditioned, that flowed through original humans. Now, even original humans had various regressive aspects because there is no expression of consciousness that doesn't have both regressive and progressive qualities. But we were on the really progressive dominant end of the spectrum. And we're engineered to use our capacities for the purpose of consciousness evolution by way of co-creating in material reality. Manifest material through a little bit denser physicality. And of course, you know, this was a project that basically went off track, way off track, because of regressive forces coming in. Now, this is just what regressive forces do. This is not about getting all angry and weird. And it's like, if those things are being triggered within yourself, you need to clear them. You need to identify their source and clear them, because they obstruct your ability to respond in the way that we need you to respond, or that you need you to respond. So, internet technology. All this stuff is remember, to counterbalance all of these special abilities that they know we have. And it's intensifying because we're nearing the convergence point. Okay? So internet technology, what is that? We can get online and ask a question and contact somebody, you know, instantly. Knowledge. Knowledge. Well, that's the lame ripoff of the ability to access and instantly receive impressions. Tapping into that unconditioned awareness and consciousness, potential vital energy. Whoosh. And I talked about this and kind of how this works, at least with me and some others that I know, how it kind of comes to us, and it comes to us in different ways. And I can almost guarantee that it's happened to you too. You just didn't know that that's what was happening. But this unconditioned knowingness, being able to tap into that at will. These direct impressions, direct gnosis. You just know something. This ties into clairsentience. You know, this claircognizance. You just know something. So that's internet. That's this shadow of our own inbuilt capacities to basically access whatever we need at the moment. to align ourselves with that. And it comes through us, to us and through us. It's a lame ripoff. And the regressive ruling class know this. So internet, woo, I can just get anything I want anytime. And plus, I mean, it accomplishes so many of their, really, really helps their agendas unflow, because internet technology, it accomplishes so many other things too. I mean, the mind control, the technological aspect of it, the energetic aspect of it, keeping people continually looking outside themselves for information and knowledge. I'll just get it over here or over there. I'll go to this site. I'll go see what this person's talking about. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's important too, to get a bigger picture perspective of things. What others have to say, what others have written, books, all of that is important. But when that's your only source, and when you're not going more inside than outside to get information, that's an imbalance. If you are here on this journey, progressive dominant co-creation. So it is a little bit out of balance. You're supposed to be creating as much as possible through progressive consciousness. And to be doing so, pardon me, within a balance of masculine and feminine modes of creation. Maintaining a balance there. Going within instead of looking outward or looking for. This happens so much in the spiritual community as well. Going to sites for information about how to. What's my quick fix? What's my pill? What's the next thing I need to do? How do I do this? Instead of increasing your level of awareness and tapping more and more into and applying knowledge, higher order knowledge of the totality of objective truth, how this reality works, how you work, what you really are, what's really going on in your day-to-day interactions with others, personal relationships, professional relationships, with strangers in the street, on your job, at home, when you're in your downtime, your playtime, in every moment and area of your life. Consciously seeking to clear your distortions. People talk a lot about free will, give a lot of lip service to say, well, you always have free will. Reality unfolds in every nanosecond it's unfolding through. Now, it doesn't always come to manifestation, depending upon the level of focused attention, energy, awareness, and action that's being taken, but with every thought and all that, the potential unfoldment, manifestation of reality in every nanosecond. And if we're not seeking to become responsible masters of all of these creational tools and all of what we're doing, and seeking to get to those things that block that flow, that influx of divine knowingness, then do we really have free will? Do we really know who we are? What's going on? Why we're here? When we're operating through eons of inherited societal indoctrination, genetic manipulation? Whose free will? Whose will? core self will, or ego will, or the will of something else? A higher density being or entity, their will. Those are the three options. So internet technology is a poor representation of our ability to tap into that higher, pure, unconditioned knowingness and awareness, and co-create through that. So, the internet. Another technology. And this has been around for a long time, but remote control, but it's getting more and more sophisticated. Remote control cars where the driver gets in, and this is coming, people, where you don't even drive anymore. It's all done electronically, or AI technology, whatever, robotics, whatever. But remote control, we've seen this in children's toys forever. We've seen it used in warfare, military strategies and tactics all the time. The drone technology. These days, most soldiers are sitting behind a computer screen. You're dead. You're dead. Totally degrading the value of human life. It's not even real. It's like a video game. And those are the people that they really want coming into the service from the foot soldier perspective. Yeah, they've grown up on these killing video games. To do something on a screen, it's not really real. But there have been a number of these military personnel that have come out and just been totally messed up, and they, bless them, they were able to recognize what was going on, and they just couldn't abide it. But they come out and they're messed up and they have to heal. They realize they were killing people. This wasn't just a video game. But all this engineering, all of this stuff, this remote, push a button, boom, somebody's dead. A village is wiped out. All in the name of protecting us from terrorism these days. Oh, it's all for your own good. Which takes me to the spy technology, the ever watchful eye. Video cameras everywhere you turn, especially in European countries. Not so much here yet, but it's coming. It's more and more all the time. And this connects to remote viewing. And I touched on that in the last video. The ability to see in the mind's eye, through psychic capacities, what's going on some other place in the world, or perhaps even in other dimensions and other realities. These are all capacities within us. And some of you might laugh, and I don't care. Laugh all the way into dystopia. But we have this within us. Now, not every person has every capacity that I speak about in the last video. This would come over time. But this is the uniqueness, different variations, different degrees of capacities. That wouldn't go away, uniqueness. Just like there are people here that are better writers than others. Okay, someone might be a little bit better remote viewer than another. But the other might be much better at direct knowing, gnosis, clairsentience. So, and we've been so messed with genetically and mind control, through mind control and programming and social engineering and all that, that it's often far more difficult for the average person to accept these special abilities, our capacity, at least our capacity for them, than it is to accept all the negative, the regressive aspects in people. And that's by design as well. So that it would be easy for them to introduce all of these so-called advanced technologies, and people go, ooh, wow, magic, I want more of that. All of these really advanced prosthetics that they're introducing. Let's go put some soldiers, get them blown up. Let's, mess up their bodies. And so we have a whole new lab full of people to play with that we can use these prosthetics on. And of course their lives are improved. And I'm not saying that that's not an amazing thing for them and their lives and their families. But down the road, at what price? Because these are all going to be, they're mind controlled, psychic, mentally controlled, some of them. They tie into the nervous system, thought patterns, thought waves. But they're all always connected to other. In other words, others can tap into them. It's like, okay, you need to tune up a fix, I can fix it remotely, which means they have access to you, your nervous system, your thoughts, your emotions. Piece of cake. The ability to control you, should they decide to do that at some point. And what do you think would happen when we connect to computers and all? You think you're going to be just a free will individual? Well, first of all, chances are, if you choose to do that, if that's something you consciously choose to do, your soul is probably so fragmented that it would be basically obliterated in doing that connection, making that connection where your consciousness is totally now driven by AI or some such other mechanism. So remote control also ties in to, this is telekinesis, the ability to psychically move something, as well as remote viewing, with the ability to move things at a distance. The introduction of the telephones, then ultimately email, and now so-called smartphone technology. This is all about telepathy. These beings knockoffs of telepathy. The ability to instantly communicate with someone no matter where they are. Typically done through, sometimes through verbal formations, thought forms, words, but other times just through impressions. A combination of emotions and thoughts and just, symbolic impressions, but connecting. We've all had experiences of that, telepathy, where you're thinking of somebody, then the phone rings, and it's them. You know who's going to be on the other end of that phone, even if you weren't thinking about them. You just go, oh, I know that's John, that's Megan, whoever. You just know it, and you don't even really think about it. You just know. And that's the result of, there's been some sort of telepathic communication. But, and I won't even get into all of the, this also ties into direct knowing. You just know. You just know. out of the blue. You just know something. But I won't even get into all of the pitfalls and all of the downsides of smartphone technology. Think about how they've pulled us away. So many. We look around, people, these commercials that people think are so funny. The first one that came out that I was aware of, that, tried to make a joke of it. This family sitting around the dinner table and every one of them's glued to their phone. They're there together in the same space. There's been a lot of other commercials similar to that since then, but they're all sitting at the table messing with their smartphones instead of talking to each other and connecting with each other. Everywhere you go, even to the point of putting ourselves at greater risk. People doing this while they're driving, texting each other. How many people are dying from that? But addicted to technology. The brilliance of that, from the ruling class's perspective. Well, they took that one, hook, line, and sinker. They're standing overnight to wait for the next release of this or that phone, shoving it down our throats and training us to use it. Can you think of anything that you watch or read basically that doesn't have a picture with somebody or multiple people messing with their phones? They permeate society and everything. Somebody's got to, it's a way of life. Got to have your smartphone. And how many times do I hear the lines, in commercials or movies? Oh my God, my whole life is on that phone. I've got to find my phone. So, and I'm sure most of you listening are aware of that. Let's look at wormhole. Let's get step out a little bit. Wormhole technology, the ability to go from one dimension density into another. How many times has this been portrayed in movies? Well, basically, wormhole technology is a downgrade. That is not, the highest form of that technology is teleportation, projecting consciousness, instant relocation, if you will. Whereas wormhole and teletransportation has to do with wormhole technology, and wouldn't even presume to tell you that I don't know anything about the actual science of it, but that's a technology. That is not a direct, unconditioned, tuned into the consciousness of other and projecting consciousness elsewhere technology. It is a being made technology. Granted, it's extremely advanced by 3D standards, but this is basically moving through portals, thinking ships, but moving through a portal into another dimension. This is something that the beings do all the time, and perhaps many of these, the reptilians, the greys, some of these other races, that they're using these technologies to move in and out of our dimension. But that's not the same as consciousness projection. There's myriad forms of consciousness projection involved here, which brings me to time travel, space travel. Space travel, being able, that ties into the, using a spaceship to go from one place to another. It's like, really? I could go into a whole rant about that, but I won't. But using ships to go from one place to another. That's downgraded technology. That is not highest level technology. The technologies that original humans had the capacity, and others, there's very advanced other beings that had this, but humanity having this capacity. There's been a number of really credible reports and detailed descriptions of some of the crafts that are seen, that have been seen in our dimension, you know, the crafts of other beings, where the technology may have been coming kind of close to this, but it's still, if it's around, you know, a mechanical device, but wherein the being or beings that were operating this technology were doing so non-mechanically, so to speak, that there were some involvement of energy or mental or perhaps psychic capacity involved. Combination of the two. Kind of like the mind, the human mind being hooked into a computer. There's some sort of technology there. But that's not the same as being able to move within every density dimension that your genetics, your mind-body complex, you know, your coding, that you were built to move through and within and co-create within. Consciousness projection. And again, getting back to time, the same thing applies to time. There have been, you know, I believe Montauk, that was an experiment in time travel. There's a lot written about that. You can go look that up, and I believe it's Montauk. But some fascinating information around that. But, you know, humans and probably advanced beings behind them, some of these interdimensional regressive beings behind that, using, you know, to start introducing and getting, you know, selling humans on these concepts from a technological perspective of time travel. Well, you time travel, and you're going to, you know, many of you minimize this, but you time travel all the time. Every time you project your consciousness into a potential future situation, or you project your consciousness back in time by recalling a memory and re-experiencing that. That's time travel. And if you really took that into deep consideration, when you use those processes, if you use them consciously, these are fantastic means of co-creation, changing, healing yourself by healing the past, approaching past situations with a new perspective. This is done all the time, even in mainstream psychology. Some of it's called shadow work, inner child healing. And the psychological aspect is usually all that's focused on. That is all that's focused on, unless you're, you know, someone on this journey and you're looking at it from a spiritual, how can I use this not only to heal psychologically, clear my distortions, but from a higher order perspective, healing the soul and literally contemplating it and viewing it from the perspective of true time travel and what that could mean. And I'm not saying I know all of what it could be, but just imagine if it were approached from those perspectives. This isn't just psychological work. This isn't just something that's in the mind. That's what we've been trained to believe. It's just in your mind. Well, I call BS. That's not the case. If you're not looking at things from all these different levels, then you're creating way down here instead of where we could be co-creating, which is way up here, the way we were designed and built to co-create in this reality, in cooperation with this reality, tapping into the natural energies of this reality, as well as our own consciousness, vital energy, unlimited potential, unconditioned awareness, and letting that move through our unique personality, the personality of the soul, the unfettered soul, the unconditioned soul, through this mind-body complex in alignment with core self-desire, divine will. Wow, that would be living. So that's basically what we're working to do through the self-mastery process, this ascension. Restoring our capacities to do so. And by restoring the mind-body complex, we reactivate these capacities within us. So that gives you a pretty good idea of how humans have been so devolved in consciousness into thinking that these technologies and transhumanism is a step up from where we are now. Whenever something really is being pushed, shoved, really promoted, there's a big agenda behind it, and people need to really be looking at that. And I'm not talking about living in fear of it. That's not progressive creation. It's about moving forward because of or in spite of. True progressive co-creation. Yeah, this doesn't frighten me. It's something we need to be looking at, but I'm not frightened by it. It's going to unfold the way it unfolds. I choose not to be a part of that. How about you? And remember, your personal and our shared reality, our co-creations, unfold from one moment to the next, from one choice to the next. Are you really choosing? Or is it conditioning choosing? Ego choosing? Programmed belief systems choosing for you? Or some other being choosing from you when you're not really paying attention or in the moment and you have not yet mastered thought and holding consciousness, sacred consciousness space. So that you know when something is trying to come upon you, something either ego or regressive external influences, seeking to influence. Can you see how important self-mastery is, this whole process? Every one of us, even the most aware and in tune of those among us, have been externally influenced, either through another that's being influenced, within themselves, because they're not in tune in the moment, they're not present moment focused, mindful, they're not intimately familiar with their own range of thoughts and emotions, so they can quickly say, woo, that's not me. Or, ooh, that's not true. Well, that's someone else's, something else's. It's not true. That's not mine. But so intimately familiar that and this goes beyond. We start by dealing with and becoming masters of thought and emotion, tapping into our intuitive creative center. eliminating attachments, ego identifications and attachments, clearing, so that we can, when we do feel ourselves and start expending more conscious effort to be coming from that place of unconditioned awareness and consciousness flowing through us. We're literally making space for that. We're literally learning who we really are and what we're really capable of. And time is of the essence. This current density dimension does move on a timeline. You can't just say time doesn't exist. The only place time does not exist is in unexpressed consciousness and awareness. Time isn't there. But it exists. Not like linear time, but nonlinear time exists where there is any expressed consciousness. And it's not going to look anything like you or I could imagine. And it's unfolding simultaneously. But so time in our reality matters because we're ascending to the intention part of this work is to we're restoring, reactivating our capacities, activating our capacities to function, to co-create within the multiple dimensions of this reality that we were intended to create, that we were designed to be able to create, to move through the inner realms. And 4D reality, 4DD, never went away. That was the baseline for this reality. And that's why more and more of us are feeling the sense of sped up time. Part of that's due to the transition of the evolutionary cycle, the convergence point. As we get more and more to that, time does speed up. But it also has to do with the fact that those of us that are awakening, and those of us with various abilities and so forth, are reattuning to, we're more able to be aware of fourth density dimension. Coming back into our awareness. We need to adopt it into our perspectives and perceptions as a result of becoming more and more aware of it. And in fourth density, 4D reality, thoughts, emotions, actions manifest virtually instantaneously. Another really important reason to become master of your thoughts and emotions and your actions and behaviors now. Otherwise, you'll burn up in a flash. Things will come back on you. That's part of they go hand in hand. The diminishment of awareness and level of consciousness unfolds as a lower level density dimension, linear time, space. And so we have the perspective and perception that time is linear. Things take time. Well, as 4DD comes more and more back into our awareness and our perceptions and perspectives, time's going to just unfold quicker and quicker and quicker. And that's part of this process. It's just why we want mastery. We seek mastery of thought and emotion. Because this is another reason people are under the illusion, many, that we aren't co-creators. Yeah, on some level okay. You know, humans are responsible for this crap over here or that crap over here, but not truly seeing themselves as co-creators because of that time differential. Although things can happen here pretty instantaneously too. And that's happening for more and more of us all the time, where we're thinking and doing one thing, it's like, boom, it's there before we know it. So take heed of that too, the time factor, and how that's part of this process too. This is why the more dedicated we are, the more effort, focused attention, and energy that we give to this, not only in our day-to-day lives, but setting time, alone time, to really focus on this work is crucial if you're serious about this process. So I think I'm going to call it a wrap on that note. In the next video, commentary or two, well, zip, I'm not going to say, you'll see. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed already to YouTube or on my website, I hope that you will. And if you need help, I'm still offering, you're ready to start digging in, I'm still offering a free 1-hour support session that can help you whatever area you're stuck in. And you might come in frustrated, but you'll walk away with an immediate, a plan of action that you can implement immediately. And by the way, I want to say thank you to those of you who have been making donations. I deeply appreciate it. It's much needed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It makes my work possible. And I hope that I look for your comments. You don't have to just comment to me directly through the contact page. That's great. I love that too. But let me know below what your experiences are. Ask your questions there. Share with others. We need to work with each other and share our knowledge. And I learn from all of you too. But your input, your questions, so that others can hear them. Others might be going, well, I was wondering that same thing. But your input is needed by others. So I hope you consider that, ask any questions. What are your experiences going through all this process, and share that below. In the meantime, take care on your journey. Stay safe, stay frosty. And I look forward to meeting you the next time. Take care.